Hello, welcome back to my channel. For this video, I wanted to do something a little bit different than the past couple of videos that I've been uploading. So when I first created this YouTube channel, some of the main elements I really wanted to incorporate were showcasing my art and my love for art and everything creative, as well as book reviews and reviewing some literature that I have been reading lately. So today I'm actually showing you a drawing that I created for the book we are talking about today, which is Red, White, and Royal Blue. So diving into my review of the book, it was written by McQuiston and originally published in 2019. In terms of the plot and pacing, the first son of the first female US president, Alex, and the youngest prince of the British monarchy, Henry, start the story off as kind of rivals, enemies almost, and they end up developing a relationship that begins as a genuine friendship, and then they quickly discover that it's actually a little bit deeper than that, and it's more of a romantic relationship. So, in terms of the pacing, the first few chapters were actually pretty slow, and I personally had to force myself to finish them and continue reading the book. Some of the chapters in this book were a little bit too long for my liking, and it felt like I had to really kind of force myself to continue, and it made the pacing a little bit slower for me personally. I would rather just read a shorter chapter and then put the book down if I'm feeling tired or don't really feel like continuing to read. But diving into the characters of the story, we follow Alex, who again is the first son, and his correspondence and friendship with Henry. In terms of some of the good aspects of the story that I really liked, there's some ideas of unconditional love that are presented. We know that Henry kind of has some anxiety issues and he struggles with mental illness. We learn more about it as the story continues. And there's a really beautiful point that's elaborated on where Alex is having a conversation with Henry's family, and the idea of accepting these kind of darker, not as perfect or beautiful parts of him is brought up. And Alex essentially says that he wholeheartedly accepts these parts of Henry and embraces them, and that without these parts of him, he wouldn't be himself. And I think that's really beautiful and kind of an analogy for life, how we see without the bad times, we would not be able to appreciate the good as well. And we have to kind of accept all of it for what it is, and it helps us appreciate the whole picture. Additionally, there's a point about Alex and his kind of passion for his home state that I thought was really lovely to read. He's originally from Texas. His family kind of got their start in politics in Texas and grew up essentially from having nothing to now being in the White House. And there's a really nice point that's talked about where he's elaborating on the idea of rural or southern places, particularly, are a lot more complex than sometimes people from more metropolitan areas give them credit for. And I think that's a really beautiful and relatable point, especially growing up in a place that is in the South. I can understand that places are diverse. There's more than just one viewpoint, more than just one ideology that's represented in any place. And I thought that was a really lovely thing to see in the story. Another point was that we kind of see Alex, as the story continues, embrace the fact that life is a journey and not a destination. Without giving away too much of his character, he's a super driven person. He has a lot of goals that he's set for himself, and essentially has set up a pipeline of success as he sees it that he needs to follow in order to maintain his goals. But through his friendship with Henry and through the kind of adventure that they go on through meeting and developing their relationship, he's able to kind of understand that, again, life is more about every experience, and he learns to kind of appreciate life as he's living it and appreciate what's right in front of him, instead of simply thinking of it as simply the destination of completing his goals that he's set. So to transition into some of the points that I didn't like quite as much about the story, number one, to me, the way that the story was written, it read as more of a fan fiction, which isn't to say fan fiction is bad or can't be wonderful to read, but it wasn't exactly what I was looking for, and I felt like it kind of took me out of the story. I didn't really see it as being super realistic. It seemed like more of someone's kind of fantasy, someone romanticizing these ideas. Was that aspect of the story wasn't exactly to my liking. Another aspect was there are some sexual scenes in the story, and to me, they kind of came off as a little bit lewd. I felt like they were a little bit voyeuristic, and I honestly felt uncomfortable reading them. It felt really fetishy to me and generally made me uncomfortable. I don't know. It kind of was creepy, and I didn't really enjoy that. The next point that I'm going to talk about is I felt like the overall arc of the story was actually pretty predictable. Again, not necessarily a downfall to have a kind of lighthearted, predictable read, which I think was the intention behind the story. But if you're looking for something that has twists or unexpected story arcs, I don't think this is probably the choice for you. And the last negative point I want to talk about is I felt because the story centers on characters whose lives are immersed in politics, sometimes the writing got a little bit confusing. It was a little bit over my head. I don't claim to be an expert on political theory or the political process in the United States, but I do have a basic understanding of the process, and I felt that some of the ideas and the processes and kind of the day-to-day tasks that the characters went through seemed unnecessary, especially contrasting to how lighthearted and silly the romance was. Personally, it took me out of the story whenever the political aspects were mentioned. So going into my overall thoughts for the story, I thought that it was fun, it was lighthearted, it was pretty accessible in terms of the writing, with the exception of kind of some of the political aspects that I felt like seemed unnecessary and too mature for the context of the story. But overall, it was a pretty fun escapist novel. Let me know your thoughts on this new video format. Did you like it? Would you like me to create more art pieces based on the stories I read? Would you like me to attempt doing different art styles? And here's the finished piece. I have a few issues with it, but hopefully you guys enjoyed watching the process of me making it, and maybe you like the end product. Please let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thanks so much for watching.